You are listening to Withstood, produced by Crossbrand.
All right, folks, do you think every time that somebody uses the word prodigal that they are talking about some drunken, drug-induced journey so far away from God? You may be surprised today to hear from our guest who's going to talk a little bit about his prodigal days. Hey, folks, we're back. We are always excited to have guests. This is our Withstood podcast. I was thinking the other day, everybody else's podcast has a sponsor. And so this is sponsored by Crossbrand. Crossbrand's Withstood is sponsored by, brought to you by our faithful sponsor, Crossbrand.
Aren't we lucky?
We are. I got to work on that. I need some sponsorships.
Little Debbie's, something, you know.
That's right.
PepsiCo company.
Around here, it would probably be a coffee company. So that's probably what we need to work for. Hey, my guest today is Ty Shafer. He is incredibly connected to Crossbrand, has been for a little while. I'm going to talk to him a little bit today about his journey. He's got some interesting twists and turns. Some of it I haven't heard about. Brack was telling me the other day that there's certain aspects of your story that need to be told and need to be heard. And
that is yet to be seen. I think.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll let
How
the
old are
audience
you, Ty?
decide. I am a 64 model, so that I will be 58 in September.
Sweet. I'm your elder. By
Thank
2
goodness.
years. Yeah,
Thank
by 2 years. You've held together a lot better than I have, though. You still got hair?
Yes. It's running away
Hey,
up
look
at the
at that.
corners, and there's a spot towards the back that has.
How about that? I don't know if I've ever seen you
without.
without a hat, though. So,
Yeah, well.
in all these years.
That may be a good thing.
Yeah. So tell us, all right, your connection with Crossbrand, like when you just pulled in a minute ago, you was dragging something behind you. And you are one of our Tuesday night kind of stock contractor guys, ain't you?
Yeah, that's the biggest connection here recently. And so I pulled in here with about 12 broncs on the trailer, and so we will try to throw some kids off in our buck out ministry tonight. And really, in all honesty, there's both levels on there. We can sure enough, it's easier to buck somebody off than it is to find broncs that they can learn and ride on. So there's a little bit of both in that trailer.
Absolutely.
So, we try to give them all at least a fair chance to get started.
Y'all do this every Tuesday night.
Yeah,
too,
well, it is the first and third Tuesdays of each month
when we do the broncs.
We do the broncs and the bulls in the same night. Generally, we've had nights where we would buck 12 or 15 broncs. 25, 30 bulls, and of course on them cold nights when the cowboys who really don't want to be cowboys don't show up, it's just one or two. But it's been a real blessing, really. 2013, I'm gonna have to do math, so 7, 8, 9 years now.
You've been
24
part of our deal for 9 years.
This we started. We did the first buck out. I want to say 2013 or 2014. I've been kicked in the head way too many times to recall that, and been pretty steady. We take a break every now and again in case there's a lot of events going on down at Crossbrand. This arena gets used, and it gets used hard, and so we don't want to wear out our welcome sometimes and wear out our arena team ministry. And the reality is that arena connection goes all the way back really into about, I'd say 2007 or 8, the Wire Arena down at the bottom of the hill where we were then hauling my two younger children up here for some of the events that we had going on back there, the Buck Wilds and back in the days.
You bet. Buck Wild Western Circus. Yeah. I just remember seeing that poster the other day. You bet.
Those were good times,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's the name of that ministry?
We are Isaiah 6-8 Ministries. It is a ministry that some friends of mine and I prayed about a lot of years ago, and we wanted to be a resource. We wanted to be the people available to maybe some of the smaller cowboy churches that didn't have a lot of resources. We wanted to be a connection, and in that we've helped them produce some of their own events. Doesn't have to be broncs or bulls or anything. Sometimes we just help them put on a mutton busting or a team sorting when they don't have the enough of the wherewithal to kind of put that together.
Yeah. I didn't realize it had been that long. You know, you didn't start off this way. What is your background? I mean,
well, you know, it's a prodigal journey that's probably worth a couple chapters. But I am actually one of 7 Shafer kids. Oh my! And we should probably stop and pray over that now. My parents actually divorced when I was 4th, 5th grade, and anyway. So my older brother, Brett, you may know him, and younger brother, Clay, at the time, all stayed with Dad, who was managing a big Angus ranch, actually a series of Angus ranches. And so we were raised just ranch kids by a single dad. And we towed the line in public and just tore up an anvil when we were at home. And so it was, but from there, there was a stint in the Army. Actually came to Texas in 1987, June 3rd of 1987, decided that I was tired of ranching and I was going to make a living riding bulls, and had a good time doing it, and just drove that prodigal journey to the faraway land there for quite a few years.
And that was in 87?
That was in 87. It had a great career, really. It everything since about 87, everything after the Army always revolved around rodeo, and so that everything that happened in my life always kind of turned that corner. Always came back to that arena, one way or another, but I realized late in that, I wish God had gotten a hold of me a lot sooner. I realized late in that experience was all about feeding Ty. It was all about feeding pride. It was all about feeding ego.
You're talking about the experience with the rodeo?
Rodeoing, yes.
Okay.
And and we grew up, great family, great dad. Every opportunity was afforded us, and Dad drug us to church every Sunday morning. Sometimes a little Methodist church, sometimes a little Presbyterian church, and but by the time I was a senior, Mike, I'd had enough of religion. And I think we see that a lot in this world today, and so hence my prodigal journey began right after high school, and it wasn't just a hop and skip, to get away. It was a full-blown run the other direction.
Did you go right into the military after high school?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I spent 6 years in the Army as a flight engineer on Chinook helicopters, and enjoyed it. Really was really going to stay. At one point was going to re-up and go longer, but my pride wouldn't let me do it because they were going to send me back to a duty station where I'd already been, and I swore to myself I wasn't going to repeat stuff. If I was going to do this, I was going to see everything, do everything, be everything that I could be, right? Did I just make an Army commercial?
I think you did.
I was going to be all I could be right there. And so pride got the better part of me and went back to ranching in Montana, and got tired of winters, got tired of,
Oh, my goodness, I bet.
And my brother was here in Texas at the time riding bareback horses, and I said, you know what, I think I'm going to go to Texas. And I said, hey, you think a man can ride bulls in Texas? And he laughed, and said, come on. And, the rest is history. 11 years, Texas circuit finalist a couple of times. That rodeo career is probably the most pivotal point in the me realizing what kind of prodigal journey I was on. I was always driven to be the best, and felt like I had what it took to make the national finals, to get to the pinnacle, to be there, and you know, and I got right there to the edge, right to the precipice, you know, a couple times, and you know, broke into the top 20, you know, a couple times, and in reality, looking back, hindsight, they say, is 2020. You know, God knew that I would be a worthless mess to him had I gotten that much success. I wouldn't have handled it well. And same reason why he doesn't allow me to win $1 million. You know, I just wouldn't steward it that well.
Yeah.
And I had to come to understand that it was really what he was doing was preparing me all the time. You know, he was giving me, pardon the pun, the arena to operate in. And I had a natural affinity to be talking all the time, and was pretty good at retaining information. And all of those things, looking back, were all just the tools that God was using to refine me to a journey that I had no idea was even coming.
Were you married then?
I was married. I had a practice marriage. I did.
Yep.
Had a practice married early on in about 89, 90, which the practice marriage, my pride and ego probably destroyed. In fact, I know it did. But out of that, I had 2 boys, and in that divorce, the boys and I stayed hooked, and so we did our thing for a few years, and then I met my sweet bride Anna in 97 or 8, I guess, and the rest is history. There, she had 2, I had 2, and we became the Brady Bunch.
All right, I like that. So you mentioned a minute ago the prodigal experience. What is that?
You know, if you're familiar with that story in Luke, the idea that we would have something good and knowingly run from it, to know, you know, that's the worst part about telling the story is that looking back at, you understand, I knew I had things well. There was no reason to run the other way, other than this world was feeding my ego. This world was feeding my pride, and I enjoyed that. And you know, in that story, in that parable, the young man, as he gets to that faraway land, finds rock bottom.
Oh, you know? Man!
But
tough story.
It is. It's a terrible story. But where mine differs is I never really hit rock bottom. And you know, God allowed me to hang out in that faraway land. He let me be in that prodigal journey until I came to my senses. And yeah, the divorce rocked my world, and it was terrible, and it was. But that wasn't rock bottom. I just don't think that everybody ever gets a rock bottom, because some people just have shovels in their truck, you know, and when they get to the bottom, they just keep digging. And I think I kept on digging a bit. And, you know, it was no great testimony that, you know, I was thrown in jail or had big issues. But all the way through that, looking back now, I can see that there were people being placed in my life that were beginning to plant some seeds, that were beginning, you know, that and God needed them to have that opportunity. I needed to hear it. And so that journey of, like I said, I was having a good time. Wasn't broke, you know, wasn't destitute, didn't commit crimes of unspeakable natures. And,
right.
But
you were still far away from God.
I was so far away.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of folks think if they're not in jail, it's not as bad.
It's not as bad.
But
that's an excellent point.
Man,
it was.
People can be far away from God and look.
And
okay,
that was the epiphany moment. Is that, you know, I read, you know, and God had never left me.
No.
You know, and I just turned and ran from him, and I never felt like God was. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I felt like who I was and who I enjoyed being was never in line with what or who God needed. You know, that little Methodist upbringing was toe the line, and it was to is to get right and get to church, and it was to live right, and what I lacked in all that until God sent those people into my life was the fact that I could have a relationship. And what I sucked at, is that good? Is that can I
you
say?
bet. Yeah, you can say that.
Well, what I sucked at was relationship. I not only with my Heavenly Father, but I sucked at relationships here on earth.
Yeah,
because I looked at them, every one of them, for what was in it for me. What could I get out of it?
Where was the breaking point? Because
the breaking point, in all honesty, was really the inception of the then TFCC. Back in about 2005.
Texas Fellowship of Cowboy Churches.
It was about 2005. I had an opportunity to go lend a hand. I was picking up some broncs, sorting stock for Gary and Missy Halbert with Riding for Christ.
Right.
And Brett had already made that connection.
Old days, you bet.
Right. And I went into it with just the idea that, hey, I get to be a cowboy. I didn't care that it was church, but I got to be a cowboy. I got to ride my horses. I got to do the stuff that I felt like I was built and designed to do. And so I got there, and I remember almost speaking out loud to a gentleman that, and then I said, this cowboy church thing, it's all great, whatever, it'll be fine, but I've gone too far. I'm too much set in who I am. I can't change who I am to kind of come fit this church thing. And he told me, he said, why do you have to change? He said, God made you who you are, right? He gave you those talents, and he ordered your life in a direction that fit your abilities.
That's right.
He said, why do you have to be somebody other than Ty? And I said, well, that's what church people do, right? They're one way on Sunday, and 6 days a week they're somebody else. And I said, man, I'm not built that way. I'm going to be Ty 7 days a week. And he goes, okay, be Ty 7 days a week. Have that relationship with him, and let God use the tie that's there. And I thought, that can do that. And I got to looking around, and I realized there were some wretched cowboys around me who had real relationships, who truly had a peace about their life that I was lacking. In all of that prodigal journey, the thing that I lacked was that peace. There was never enough. I was never satisfied. I was never comfortable. There was always one more rodeo. There was always, one more horse trade to do. There was one more job to get done, and there was always more and more and more. And it never ever got satiated. It was a constant. There was things had to be just right all the time for me, and and I realized it was wearing me down. And when I realized that, man, I could be me, but I could be useful. That I could have a relationship, and that upbringing, we kind of missed out on the relationship part with our Heavenly Father. We were about the step and fetch. Stand up, sit down, do right. Wear this, eat chicken at the middle. Let all them little old ladies pour your Kool-Aid and pinch your cheeks. And be right, toe the line. And I missed out early on in my life with the relationship aspect that God provided and wanted me to have. And so about 2005 there, I began to understand those people had something that I wanted. And what that was that peace, that comfort with not knowing there's not one more, thing that I have to do. But what I have to do is just do the best with what I have today, and I'll get up tomorrow by God's grace and work hard at it again tomorrow.
Was that, were you at Waxahachie then?
Waxahachie, right at the beginnings of that buck-out ministry. Like really laid some foundation there.
Oh, I'm telling you.
It is. For me, personally. And then we were doing some sharing the spirit rodeos. Remember that we'd haul a load of broncs and bulls up to, went up to do Wichita Falls when they were still meeting in a sale barn.
Oh, yeah.
And, had a great time doing that.
I had forgotten about that.
That was back in the days. And even came here to Cross Brand on a few occasions for some of the buck wilds and whatnot.
So you Did you sense a calling on your life later towards teaching and preaching?
Absolutely. I think really, and again, hindsight's 2020. When I found that I could fit,
Yeah.
and those people that God had placed in my life began to explain the true essence of the gospel, that it was about relationship, and it was about being real and honest and truthful, and it was about come as you are. Bring it just as wretched and a wreck as you are. God still had a purpose and a plan. And so in that, I felt, I get this, because I retain information too. I am a Trivial Pursuit champion, and so all of that scripture that those Sunday school teachers were throwing at us, I retained all that, but I didn't have a place for it until I found the relationship, till God got a hold of me, and then I realized I had a place for that to be able to apply what had just been rattling around in this noggin of mine. And then share it, and I don't mind sharing, so I felt like early on that when I looked at it, that everything would always be centered. My entire teaching or preaching or ministry, if you want to call it that, would always have something to do with some dirt and some livestock, and I was okay with that. I was good with that. I was good, and a few years into that, prior to pastoring a church and planting a church, a gentleman told me that he said, Ty, he said, I think one day you may pastor a church. And I thought he was smoking something. I said, there's
common reaction.
Yeah, there's no way there are sane enough people on this planet to hand me the reins to a ministry. Yeah. And I kind of put it off to the side. Well, lo and behold, a couple of years later, those opportunities and that calling was still nagging. It was still there, and it presented. God opened the door, and I said to myself, God doesn't open them just so you can look at them. If He's going to open them, you're going to walk through them. And so we went into a church plant down in South Texas in 2013. To do that, or Central Texas, I should say. Yeah.
So are you pastor now?
I am pastoring now. Just recently, I finished the church plant at the end of 2020. It was time for that church to have a pastor in the area, to grow and to be connected. I'd been traveling. 200. I tell people all the time, I went 250 miles to go to church.
Wow.
Every weekend.
My goodness.
Set up a camper down there, and I would spend, 3 or 4 days down there, 3 or 4 days, at home, depending on who was throwing the biggest fit.
Yeah.
And it went well. The plant went great. God put some godly men in that ministry right there. Sent an associate pastor along there, and it was time to hand him the reins. And so in 2020, we finished up that plant, and I came back home. My bride was just tickled to death to have me at home. The kids and grandkids were happy that I were making sporting events.
You bet.
And it was a real blessing. So 21, we bounced around. I helped a couple of little cowboy churches kind of get their feet back on the ground after COVID, and then in January there's a new church plant that is. He's a miracle worker. The church plant out of Dallas County, Cowboy Church, it was a church that is across the road, across the farm to market road from my house, from my buck horse pasture. And they were looking for a pastor, and so in January,
my goodness,
I accepted that position as lead pastor at. We're going to call it the Country Church. We're Terrell Christian Country Church. And been a huge blessing. It's been been
my
great.
Goodness,
yeah.
I didn't realize that. Somehow I missed out on it. What is the name of that church?
Terrell Christian Country Church. Right. The Dallas County Cowboy Church had a mission team that felt led to plant a church, and that little church. Well, I call it little. It's a big building, but there's little in congregation right now. I watched them build that. It was a little old Baptist church. Probably 12 years ago that just didn't survive 2020. And
that's pretty common.
Right. So the building was available, the ministry was there, and the missions team decided that was a good place.
That's something else. You know, we talk about providence, but
amen. Yeah.
I mean, that is a picture perfect example of providence,
right? Yeah, we couldn't put our heads together and plan that out or do it. We couldn't make it work. And I'll be honest with you, I was perfectly happy running the roads of Texas. You know, I don't mind, but I knew it was a big drain, a big strain. My bride, God bless her heart, is a great woman, and she put up with that and put up with me. And
well, God bless anybody that marries a Shafer boy.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
We should probably just
including your sons.
Just give that an amen right there. You know.
Including your offspring.
Maybe even more so of the offspring.
I would say so. Well, we got to keep your offspring around because my boys need bronc riders from time to time on their teams.
That's right. We all have our lot in life, and I tell people quite often. I said, really, I had kids just so I could have test pilots, and God, providence again. You know, I had no idea that I'd be raising and hauling broncs when I had kids, but providence said, hey, give that guy a couple handy kids, and they'll make themselves a living out there doing
Absolutely. It. So. And they have good boys. Ty, we're about out of time, but I need you, if you had, just looking back, as a parting shot, I ask every one of my guests to give me a parting shot, but if you could do that, and this is going to be a little bit cliche, but just think about it. If you could offer your younger self any really, really wise counsel, what would it be?
And it's a tough question. I'm glad it's not like Cody's list to you, Chevy or Ford or anything. I had fears ago. But the wise counsel that I would love to have heard early on as a 17-year-old is that it's not all about you. Mm. And this world would like to tell you that stepping on the backs or the heads of somebody else is the only way that you're going to get ahead.
But it does tell you that.
It does tell you that. But what it doesn't tell you is that you never find any peace in that direction. And when you're wound as tight as I am, peace is gold. It is something I hunted for my whole life and didn't realize I was missing it. So I would tell younger Ty, quit looking inside, look out a little bit. Understand that, God is always has a plan. He's always preparing you for something that may not be out there. And if you're only looking inside, you may never see those opportunities. And, and be real, be available.
That's good stuff.
I think that the key to my life now is to be honest. I'm no theologian by any means. But I think we need to meet people where they are and be real with them, about relationships and about conversations and I'm not a big boo-hooer or hugger or anything like that, but we carry emotions and we bury them up sometimes, and I think we need to be honest with each other.
Yeah, that is pride. Yeah. That is pride. Ty, thank you for stopping by, brother. And I say stop by. You're actually here already today,
absolutely
on site. Yeah. Getting ready to kill some kids off. I appreciate the fact that you bring the broncs that you bring, because I'm the one that paid to go to a bronc riding school for one of my kids to go to a bronc riding school where they showed up with colts that flipped over end over end.
Didn't learn a thing from it. Yep.
Didn't learn a thing except, we learned our way around a new emergency room down in Houston. So it was
got a nice little wristband to go along with it.
You bet. But man, we appreciate you so much, Ty. And
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening in today. Withstood Cross Brand.